Think forming an LLC means drowning in paperwork and legal jargon? Not in Kansas. If you're ready to launch your business but overwhelmed by all the steps, this video here is going to walk you through the process from naming your company to all the different paperwork without all the headaches. Starting in Kansas is surprisingly simple if you know what to avoid. And the first mistake? Well, most people make it before they even file, but we'll get to that here in a minute. So if you're thinking about launching your own business, Kansas might not be the first place that jumps to mind, but it's actually a great place for it. The state makes life easier for first-time business owners. There's no, overwhelming red tape, no constant paperwork chasing you down, and the rules are pretty straightforward. That means that there's less time stressing over, legal details and more time actually building your business. Kansas also gives you a big advantage when it comes to geography. Sitting smack dab in the middle of the US, it's perfectly positioned for shipping, distribution, and serving customers coast to coast. So if simplicity, flexibility, and solid business fundamentals matter to you, which they should, Kansas delivers. So let's dive into the first real step, which is choosing the right name for your LLC and why that first decision can either save you headaches or cause major delays down the line. But before we jump in too deep here, here's one thing to keep in mind. So starting your business, it should be exciting, not overwhelming. But forming an LLC on your own, that can get confusing fast, right? With all the legal forms, the rules, and all the easy to miss details. Now, I'll walk you through everything you need in this video. But if any part of this feels confusing, I've got a favorite LLC formation service that makes the whole process super simple and stress-free. It's guided, beginner-friendly, and it only costs $39. So if you hit any bumps along the way, just click right up here to get step-by-step help setting up your LLC the easy way. All right, so step one, picking your LLC's name. And this is where most people make their first mistake. So it seems easy enough, right? But a lot of people, they get tripped up here and it can really delay your entire filing if you don't get this part right. So Kansas has a few simple rules for naming your LLC. First off, your name has to be unique. It can't be the same or too similar to another business that's already registered in the state. So to check this, you want to use the Kansas Business Entity Search to make sure that your name isn't taken, which I've linked to below, along with every other resource that I mentioned in this video moving forward. Now, the name also needs to include limited liability company or an abbreviation like LLC. You also can't use words that imply that you're a bank or government agency unless you've got approval to do so. And it's worth mentioning that if you're not ready to form your LLC yet, but you find a great name and want to make sure that no one steals it, Kansas lets you reserve it for 120 days. So the name stuff pretty easy, but assuming that that's taken care of, let's talk about the registered agent next. And most people, they hear that term and they have no idea what it actually means, but it is much more important than you may think. Now, here's the part that confuses a lot of new business owners, right? What the heck is a registered agent and why do you need one? Well, think of your registered agent as the official point of contact between your LLC and the state. Their job is to receive important legal documents, government notices, and even potential lawsuits on behalf of your business. Basically, if Kansas needs to get in touch with you or your company for anything serious, they'll do it through your registered agent. So here's what the state requires. So your registered agent must have a physical address in Kansas, so no PO boxes are allowed, and must be available during normal business hours. Now, you can technically be your own agent if you live in Kansas and don't mind being tied to one location, 9 to 5. It's also okay to list a friend or family member, but just make sure that they're reliable. That said, the problem with this is if you list yourself or someone else, the address related to that person will be open to the public as it's on public record. So if privacy or availability is a concern, you can always hire a professional registered agent service. Now, personally, my preferred provider is Northwest Registered Agent, which you can check out by clicking right up here when you're ready. They're known for their strong privacy protections, excellent customer support, and straightforward pricing. Now, if you hire them to help form your LLC, the cost is only $39 total, which is a heck of a deal, to be honest with you. And one of the best perks of using them is that you can use their business address on your public filings, which helps keep your personal address private and will cut down on junk mail. So regardless of what you do, remember that failing to list an agent or failing to keep your agent info up to date can get your business in hot water with the state. So you want to avoid it. Now, coming up next, we're going to be filing your articles of organization, and we'll break down exactly what that form includes and how to knock it out without getting overwhelmed. So this is the big one, right? This is the step where your business officially becomes real in the eyes of the state. So with the articles of organization, you'll need to provide your LLC's name, your registered agent's information, a business address, and the date that you want your LLC to become active, which can be immediate or delayed up to 90 days if you want. You'll also need to sign the form or have someone else do it on your behalf. So whether you file online or offline, just make sure that your information is correct, as incorrect submissions will require revisions and take more time. Once your documents are processed and accepted, your LLC is officially recognized by the state, and you'll be able to download or receive a stamped certificate showing that it's legit. So now that your business exists on paper, right, it's time to get your EIN from the IRS. But don't worry, we're not diving into tax code here. I will show you how to get it completely free and why skipping this step could slow everything down significantly. All right, so let's talk about getting your EIN, right, or your employer identification number. So think of your EIN as your business's social security number. You'll use it to pay taxes, hire employees, and open a business bank account. Even if you're a single member LLC with no employees, you still need it to separate your business finances from your personal ones. The good news, it's totally free. Just head to the IRS EIN Assistant, fill out the form online, and you'll get your EIN immediately. No waiting whatsoever. And once you've got your EIN, the next smart move is opening a dedicated bank account for your LLC. This keeps your personal and your business funds separate, which is a must if you want to maintain your liability protection. Plus, it makes taxes way easier and adds legitimacy when dealing with vendors or clients. A small step, but actual big impact. With your EIN and business bank account set up, you've just leveled up from a legitimate idea into a functional business. So next up, let's talk about LLC operating agreements and why ignoring this part could actually create some real chaos later on. Now, most people skip this step and they later regret it. So even though Kansas doesn't legally require your LLC to have an operating agreement, you can think of it like a business prenup, right? It spells out how your LLC runs, who owns what, how profits are split, how decisions get made, and what happens if someone leaves the business or disagrees on something big. Even if you're starting your LLC solo, you still want one. Why? Well, because it proves that your business is legit and separate from your personal finances, which will help protect you and your personal assets if your business ever gets sued. And if you're starting an LLC with partners, an operating agreement, it's just a must, right? Without one, you're really leaving the big decisions up to the default state rules. And trust me, those don't always work in your favor. Now, you don't need a lawyer to make this happen either, which is a big part of it. You can start with a simple template online or just use AI and customize it to fit your needs. Okay, so from here, you've got your structure done, your paperwork, and your game plan is kind of in place, right? But depending on your industry, there might be one more step, and skipping it could get you in trouble. So let's talk about business licenses. So here's where a lot of new business owners slip up, assuming that they're pretty much done after forming the LLC. But what you might not realize is that getting your LLC paperwork approved, that doesn't automatically give you permission to operate any business that you want in any area. Now, Kansas, they don't require a general state business license for LLCs. But if your LLC offers professional services like accounting, construction, salon services, anything health related, you may need an industry-specific license or permit. And sometimes at the state, county, or city level, they also have permits. So for example, food businesses, childcare providers, or contractors often need special permits to work. Now, requirements vary a lot by industry and even by city. So before opening your doors, reach out to your local city or county office and check Kansas's list of regulated industries if you're not sure what you need. Now, skipping this step, it could mean fines or shutdowns. So don't overlook this, as it could create huge headaches down the road if you don't do it right. All right, so from here, are you ready for numbers? Well, up next, we'll break down all the typical costs that you'll face setting up and running your Kansas LLC. So here's the cost breakdown for most Kansas LLCs. So first is a name reservation, which is optional, right? Not required, but if you want to hold a name before filing all your paperwork, that's $35 for 120 days. Next, we have the articles of organization. That's required. The filing fee to officially start your LLC is $160 online or $165 by mail, according to the Kansas Secretary of State. Next is your registered agent. Now, this is optional, but recommended. Now, if you do it yourself, it costs you nothing. But using a service like Northwest Registered Agent will cost $39 upfront and $125 a year and save you a ton of headaches. Next is annual report. This is also required. So Kansas requires a yearly report to keep your LLC active. It's $50 online or $55 by mail, due on the 15th day of the 4th month after your tax year ends. Also, we have business licenses or permits, and these are required in certain industries, right? So these really depend entirely on what type of business that you're running and where it's actually located. Now, costs here, they can range from $0 to a few $100s, but overall, the total expected startup costs, well, most people spend around $200 to $600 to get started. Now, annual ongoing costs, those usually run between $100 to $350, but can differ if you're in a highly regulated industry with really expensive permits, things like that. Now, upfront or long-term, Kansas, they keep things affordable, especially when you compare them to states with higher setup fees or even franchise taxes. And trust me, there's plenty of them out there. Now, again, to help with this entire process, make sure you don't make mistakes, I advise you to use a service like Northwest Registered Agent, which again, you can click right up here to check out. And they'll really help you stay in compliance year after year while you just focus on trying to run a profitable business. Now, if you have any questions for me or are a little confused about the process, just drop a comment below and I'll do my absolute best to help you out as soon as possible. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.